Alright, hello everyone, back for another golf class tutorial here. This is going to be for Tour 9. We're going to run some more holes here, and if you guys need club or ball advice, do check out my part 1 video. This is going to be part 2. Since it is part 2, we're just going to kind of jump straight in here and just try to get underway. Try to get these holes going real quick. So let's take a look here. Southern Pines, hole 6, par 5. As I mentioned in my other guide, I did set up kind of a club bag for you guys to use and follow. You can kind of see with this option here, it's probably, this is going to be a little bit too much wind for me to go quarterback with this situation. So what you'll typically see me do, other thing I can do is I can use the notebook tool, kind of verify that I'm probably going to fly. It looks like about 5 rings, maybe just a little bit downhill, and you'll see that it'll probably just carry onto the fairway. But you might want to, just in case it comes up a yard short, you may just want to, but it should be, downwind, downhill. So it should hopefully carry just a little bit extra. Looks like it does. You can see it just makes it there to the fairway. So you just want to maybe just add on and try to aim in between those bunkers just for the chance that if it did clip that rough there, it would hopefully still be enough. Now my opponent here with a level 8 is going to be able to get it just a little bit farther than me. What I typically try to do for this tour is try to stay away from this extra mile as much as I can. You could see that I was kind of forced into it a little bit here. I want to make sure, foremost, that I don't give up the eagle to my opponent and let him win outright without getting to the shootout. So, unfortunately, I did have to deviate from the quarterback, but you'll see that I'll try my hardest to pretty much stick with that club as long as I can. So here you can see very, very similar. A little bit of extra top spin, getting it up there probably just a little bit farther than me. And let's take a look at the second shot. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't turn sound effects off real quick. Got those. Kind of towards min a bit. I also think, maybe slight uphill. I'm not going to worry about that though. But notice how, I scan first and try to get a appropriate zone. And then try to find the ring adjustment. Other than that, I'm thinking maybe right around 4 backspin and plain wind effect. So you can see that I'm just kind of offsetting the guide. I expect the wind to hopefully push it just a little bit more. So other than that, I'm just going to pretty much just play the number. So I did catch a great ball. Expect this to probably shoot out towards the left. And there you can see, shoots out towards the left, costing my chance of a potential holdout for albatross. So, always be thinking about wind effect, secondary wind effect. After the ball guide hits your ball, it's going to affect the shot, and that's something that no ring tool calculates. So, you have to do some kind of, you either need to overplay your rings intentionally. What I typically do with long iron and woods, I typically try to do an offset method. So you'll see that I offset the guide to try to replicate that land zone. What that usually lets me do is it lets me land a little bit more on a consistent target that I'm aiming at, where the ball guide, may not be skewed because of a hill that I'm trying to land on. So it's much better to try to replicate your land zone and then just try to play the wind effect over towards the hole. But this works out. You can see, I didn't get the albatross. It's going to help you guys to see more shootouts if, I make some mistakes here and there. So you can see with the great ball, pretty much, there's no way to say that for sure that was going in, but it was going to be really close. I can tell you that. So let's take a look at the shootout here. This is a very interesting, tough hole. Now, this typically plays downhill, so I'm going to probably add on to my adjustment a little bit here. you'll see the downhill that I'm talking about. I do like this wind. It's a very easy one for me. I pretty much only do a rough bump on this hole. So let's just see what my opponent does. You'll typically see me use a plus 10% here, and then I'll just use, you can see that you're kind of shooting down to a lower target. You can see that, it's going to be drastically downhill. There you can see a mistake by my opponent. Hopefully he doesn't forfeit out. He may forfeit out. But what I'll try to do is typically land about here and a little bit under 4 topspin, especially with the tailwind. And other than that, 10.0 plus 10%. You can see the direction. It's telling me 13.5 rings. So just going to go the 3.5 first. I'm going to make sure that I pull over, stay away from this sand as much as I can, because the curl that I'm going to add is actually going to add some. It's going to add some hook to where it usually lands just a little bit more left. But you can see that it's just kind of shooting down here towards the hole. Had I hit perfect ball, probably would have been pretty good. It looks like, it kind of went just a little bit long because of the fact that I was, offline and maybe not quite enough curl, but you can also see I was just trying to be cautious. If my opponent's in the bunker, I'm not going to go for the home run shot. I'm just going to stay away and make sure that I pick up the win. All I had to do was hit the rough in that situation. So it's a very easy situation. If you guys do need to see that rough bump, you can either go to my Milano shootouts, and you can see that I do that from time to time. I may have even had that in the part 1. I can't quite remember offhand. But there's a good chance, there's more than enough coverage on my channel if you actually need to see that shot perfected. I'm sure that I've played that enough times with the rough bump that you guys could get dialed in using my adjustment. Oh, another thing I did there on accident, I used the max value. I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have. So let's say this was our adjustment. I probably over-adjusted rings there. I think, I was probably down closer to mid-club. I probably should have only went 12. The only difference being that it was a power 3 ball. So that's a little mistake that I made. However, when you're going for a rough bump, as long as you hit the rough bump, probably not going to cost you. So not too big of a deal. Now, what I'd like to do here, in case I get driver shootout, is switch back to the QB here. Another thing that I can try to do is go down to a navigator ball. So you'll see, as long as I can kind of get this out into play to where it's long enough to reach the green. Now, what I might do on this is I might just use the Titan. It gives you a little bit more range for your second shot, which can come in handy. So I might just do this, about 5 rings play, and use a lot of my overpower. As you can see, not all of it. I'm just trying to, kind of focus a little bit more on precision, and also, if I can keep this from running out all the way through, I can make sure that it kind of stays in the bulk of the fairway. So it's very, very safe shot to where, you keep yourself out of the rough and all that, because you never really know how the second wind you're going to get. Let's say we got wind straight in the face. It would have made my opponent's shot a lot harder. However, it looks like he would have been up here far enough that he probably would have been covered anyway. But it's always something you want to think about. He almost actually hit that tree. Keep in mind those trees are in play, and you might need to be just a little bit more careful. As you could see that, that could have been catastrophe right there. He almost great balled it right into the tree. One ring less, it looks like it would have probably hit it. So here you'll see, my drive wasn't all that spectacular, but that's okay. I don't expect to make this albatross anyway. You can see how hilly the fairway is. Just moving this target up and down, you can see how crazy this fairway is. So with that in mind, I'm just going to kind of go for close. That's all I really care about. So I'm going to kind of aim over here, maybe with a little bit of curl. and go pretty much full power. And I'll probably go 10, 12, 10 to 11 rings with a little bit of curl. And you can see I'm not even close to perfect ball. Don't really have my Tour 9 timing down, so I missed that by 2 or 3 rings. Also may not have curled it enough. I wasn't trying to get very aggressive. I was just trying to make sure that I get it to the green. As I mentioned, as hilly as that fairway is, it's a very, very tough to make that shot from the left. I have a lot more success making it when I can drive it right. And any headwind, I'm not even going to attempt going to the right off the tee. I don't know what this guy's oopsing about. But let's get to the shootout here. Why are you talking so much, dude? Seriously. So let's keep going. Get to the shootout. Oh, interesting hole here. Now, I do like this one. I typically play this very, very flat. No wind. You can see that the wind's actually very, very down on this as well. So what I'm going to do is maybe about this angle. Well, actually, the screen's probably going to rotate. It's probably going to become a lot more like 430 here in a second. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. So I'm just going to kind of set that. You can see I'm using a power 3 ball. Ooh, with the great ball, he missed the island. He missed the island. So unlucky there. Not to mention, you know, that might not be the smartest shot with a Guardian. But what I'm going to pretty much do is kind of play ball guide offset, so you can see that I'm kind of aiming just a little bit through the hole and left. And I will be pulling up just slightly towards max, so I need to make sure that I'm doing that adjustment. So I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 60%. Now, I'm not saying that I'm pulling up to max, but I'm pulling up in the direction of max. So 5.5 rings right in here. Perfect ball. So far, so good. And you can see almost able to get it. That's wind effect that's pulling that ball back to the green there. So it gives you a very good chance to be able to make it. And you know, that's pretty much the biggest secret to this game, is learning how to play wind effect. As that wind intensifies, you'll have to play more wind effect. As you can see that I'm playing very, very minimal in that case with my ball guide offset. But you can see the adjustment there is pretty spot on. Really doesn't require elevation there or anything like that. And you'll see with the wind directional tool, it'll actually kind of intensify that wind, so you won't have to go extra rings into the headwind or extra rings in a tailwind situation either. So that is one of the good things. So let's take a look here. We're probably also going to go for the Titan ball here. Having a little bit of extra power really helps you on the second shot. Plus, not to mention, you can see that it's kind of going to help me on the tee shot as well. So what I'm basically going to be looking at here is, you know, definitely shooting down to lower ground. So I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 10-ish rings. And you'll want to make sure that you're kind of counting that over. Here's 5, here's 10-ish, and then I'll just need some curl back to kind of counteract the wind. And you'll see that I'm just kind of taking off a little bit of power, hoping to kind of just get a little bit more precision out of my shot here. Plus, I don't think I'm going to need to get it any farther than this off the tee. You really just need to get it down here past the rough edge, kind of in parallel to the bunker on the right. You only need to get it down to that distance to be able to get it to the green. So you don't want to be driving this super far. Even if I was using something like Extra Mile, I wouldn't max this out and try to hit it as far as possible. I would just kind of go for precision and try to back off of it a little bit. However, you'll see, especially with the quarterback, that, and I mentioned this in, another one of my streams, a 2-ring great ball with the extra mile here is equivalent to a 5-ring pull on a quarterback. So that's a very considerable difference in terms of accuracy, and, it'll really help you be a little bit more honed in, especially when you go in towards overpower, being able to bring quarterback. And not to mention, we don't know what the shootout's going to be, so it could be very advantageous to have it for the shootout. Now, I do believe that my sniper is about 166, which is about 6 yards from max. So you can see I am just a little bit, tiny bit out of range here, but it's really negligible, to be honest with you. It's not really a big deal. Now, what I'll typically try to do, I'm just going to do this again, since this isn't really a precision shot the way that I need to do this. I'm just going to kind of wing this a little bit, and we're just going to go about 10 rings. And you can also see that I'm pulling at a slight angle. That's very intentional, because I want to make sure that I actually hit this a little bit of extra power. And you can see that I'm using just enough curl to hopefully be able to, keep it out of those trees. And here it comes down towards the hole and gives myself a very good chance for alba. Keep in mind, you can't curl a lot in that direction because of those trees, so you really have to be careful. But you can see that I'm able to use a little bit of curl, especially aiming over towards the right. Now, had I been aiming over towards the left, I probably would have just been I wouldn't have been able to put any curl on it, take the risk or anything. So it's all about kind of where you're aiming at times. And that was one of those times. If you're pulling to the right, it gives you an extra window that you can basically, and keep in mind, since I was right at max, I'm trying to make sure that the ball ended up a little bit longer. So that's one of the reasons that you saw me pulling at an angle. So if I pull at an angle up more north, you can see that the ball will actually carry farther. So that's one of the main reasons that I did that there. And without the curl, it's going to be very, very tough to get aggressive towards the hole. So you'll probably see my opponent here miss significantly left. Probably, yeah. So I was thinking, 5 yards or so. And it looks like maybe even 7 yards was at least a good, 5 grids minimum towards an angle. They were kind of like angled grids. Because the angle it was coming in, it wasn't like straight positioning. They were actually kind of on an angle. So let's get to the shootouts, and pretty much any Greenwich point is going to be an obvious advantage with the QB. So that's one of the main reasons that you'll see I'll roll with QB anytime that I possibly can. This is also another hole that's going to give QB an advantage. So we did get unfortunately we got a headwind, which actually makes it just a little bit tougher. This is probably, this was the most fortunate wind for my opponent. This makes this shot pretty much as hard as possible for me. So, I kind of have to go a different method. I'll probably have to use the sniper shot. One of the things I can do is I can aim up here on the green. With a QB8, I do believe it has 60-some backspin. However, I won't be able to stop it very close in a tailwind. I'll probably only be able to stop it maybe about 3 or 4 yards long at best case scenario. So I really need to play my opponent. You can see my opponent drove it in the bunker. So I'll probably just do that shot just as kind of a safety precaution here. Oh, nope, I only have 4 backspin. So it won't even be able to do that. But there's a couple different ways to do this. You can see that my range is just a little bit limited here. Another thing that I can do is I can aim right over here. And this is often sometimes what I'll do as well is, especially when, precision comes into play, is you'll see me do kind of a backspin shot off this rough. I'll probably play pretty close to the max adjustment and just make sure that I hook this and catch the rough. So you'll see that I'm playing it a couple rings over just to make sure that it catches the edge here. And you can see that I just kind of bring it in towards the hole, and I just play it very, very safe. Now, I don't do that shot very often, but if I can get that up to about 6 or 7 backspin once I get to a QB9, which I'm very, very close to with this account, I'll be able to actually stop that very close to the hole using that method. And with the quarterback, you can feel a little bit of extra security. The only thing you have to do is you have to position the angle. You can see that I probably was aiming maybe about 4 rings into the rough. It's because I know when I curl that and it lands past the target, all that landing area past the target is going to be moving left, which means that that rough is it's going to start to get more narrow because you're going to start landing closer and closer towards the rough. So you do got to factor in a couple extra rings. So you can see that I probably pulled in just considerably a little bit more right than I needed to just to be on the safe side, especially with where my opponent hit the shot. It's a little bit safer for me to play that shot than play especially with my sniper only being a 166. So you'll see this sniper is only 166. That's 7 yards, 6 yards less than a sniper 10, which is significant, especially if I was using a power 2 ball. So I really need to get to a QB9 just so I get that extra backspin boost, because I would have been able to just hit the cranked up backspin and probably get it to about 6 yards as well. So I do believe we got this on the part 1 stream, and I believe that I also laid up towards the left. You're probably going to see me do that again here. There's no point of me doing anything crazy here, especially into a headwind. So you can see my opponent here pretty much taking the straight fourth method. I would imagine he can probably hit the fairway if he does it right, but he's not going to ever get to the last fairway. So he's going to have to pitch it in from the rough either way. So it pretty much comes down to what's better. Is it better to pitch from there in the rough, or is it better to be in the fairway and give yourself a chance? And it's a really tough question to answer. But what I'll try to do here is I'll just try to max out and curl it a bit. And as I was mentioning about the precision, I'm not going to have to be very close on the bullseye. Okay, there's a lot of room for error on a quarterback. So you'll see that I just try to, kind of do the minimum necessary. And you'll see on a shorter hole like this, I might as well just pull out a navigator. Now, what you'll see on this next hole is it's going to be considerably downhill. We actually drew a good wind for us because it's very straight. And if we do this right, good things might happen. Now, this is at least 10% downhill for sure. So I'm going to make sure that I do a bit of an overplay. I typically, even at mid-club, end up using more like a max ring adjustment on this hole. And I'll typically do a backdoor type approach. There's no point of trying to come in and land on around the fringe or fairway. It's a really tough shot to do. Ooh. So I actually left myself just out of range. So I might, in this situation, just have to go for this shot. A little bit trickier to do. It's not impossible, but it's going to be pretty close. It's going to be a very, very tough shot when you have to bring it in like this. So here's pretty much what I'm going to do is position myself right around here. You can see that the fairway is just a little bit hilly. I might even curl this back just a little bit. And right about max club adjustment. And I'm curling it back because of wind effect. So you can see that what my ball guide was doing. And I have a feeling, just coming up a little bit short. I might have just slightly over curled it as well. But you can see that it was really checking up there. I used about 3 backspin. Probably should have only used about 2, especially up that hill. But what I was trying to do was kind of land it very, very tight on the hole. However, I don't mind us going to shootout. It gives you guys, a lot of guys are like, oh, I want to see more shootouts. I want to see more shootouts. There's plenty of shootouts on my channel. So you don't need these videos to succeed on the shootouts. You can go to Milano, the course, and basically just click on second tee shootouts and find all these videos for all these holes on the shootouts. And again here, you can see we're getting this hole again. And I would imagine, you know, people don't as much need this hole, but I'm going to anyway kind of position this right where we want it. Now we are going to be pulling down towards min club here. We might not make it to min club, but we're going to be pulling down. So we're probably going to only want to use maybe like 20% slider. You're pulling down towards min club. Min club's usually right around this line, right in here somewhere. So you'll want to make sure that you're under adjusting this, especially when you pull down into the sand. That makes it even worse. So let's see what we can do here with this adjustment. Holy moly. So this is a serious wind right here. We're going to put this on, as I mentioned, you know, down here towards 20%. You can see that the adjustment is calling for 10.8. I may only move 9.8, to be honest with you. And the biggest reason because of that is, as I mentioned before, kind of wind effect. And you'll see that I'm also kind of playing wind effect, and you can see with what I'm doing with my ball guide as well. As I mentioned, probably only right around 10 rings. I'm moving to lower ground. Anytime I do that, the rings tend to underplay a little bit. So you'll see that I'll probably underplay my ring play. And let's see, yeah, because you can see that it's kind of landing right towards the front. And it looks like I am unable to keep, you know, that's all wind effect there, pushing that ball towards the left. So you can see with where I landed, it was very right on the island. However, the ball still winds up very left. It's because of wind effect. So you need to always be thinking about wind effect. The best wind effect players are going to be the ones who win more times than not. So let's keep going here. I don't know how long we've been playing, but what did we do? 4 holes so far, give or take? I think we've done 4 holes plus shootouts, 8 minutes a pop, 7 minutes a pop. We're probably at half hour. I should have checked the time. Oh, and this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. This is all you want to have happen. Because what you'll see I'll be able to do here is I'll just be able to lay up. This works out perfect. So you'll see that I can get kind of aggressive. I can even play a navigator. You know, I'm not going to lose to the guy because I'm using a navigator and a quarterback. So why not pull out navigator and quarterback? And that's one of the beauties of this tour is some of these holes are so long. If you get on the right side of the winds, you can basically just play layup golf. And we can get around this tour with navigators very easily because the par 5s are so long. So if at all you can do that, I'm going to have a clear, well, we haven't seen a clear advantage yet because we haven't got Greenwich Point. We haven't got any of those shootouts yet. We did get the Southern Pines. However, I only have 4 backspin right now. So I'm assuming you guys probably at least have QB9, probably because you're in Tour 9. You guys might even have it maxed. So just think about how much better you'd be playing than me because, you know, on that shot where I did the QB shot, you would have been able to crank the backspin up or you would have just been able to play off the green and just full backspin it and, you know, send it a couple yards past the hole. It would have been an easy pickup win because you had QB on. Now, what I'll typically try to do here is get relatively aggressive. So I'm going to try to kind of land right in here with a full curl shot. Now, you don't have to play it this way, but if you choose to, you'll be up here, you know, a lot closer. Give yourself a chance at maybe a long iron shot. Another thing you can do is just lay up. As long as you make it to right in front of the bunker, you can get there with sniper. So if I was to lay up to right here, I can still reach the green with sniper. And with sniper, hitting a precision shot to right here with all that ball guide is very, very easy to do. So you're kind of seeing that's what my opponent's doing. All you have to do is position yourself up here close enough. That might need a decent win for number 3. It's a little bit laid back. You know, he can probably still get it, but what if you get a bad wind? It doesn't look like he got a bad wind, but what if you do? You know, that's all I'm basically, letting you guys know about. Now, I do believe I can technically go for this rough bump here. I may not be able to get to this to the hole. It looked like I was kind of towards max club a bit right there. This is going to be uphill. So I'm going to kind of under adjust this a little bit. I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 4, maybe just a little bit more than 4. It's kind of an under adjust because we are shooting uphill. And since I don't want to put the elevation on, I'm just going to oh man, another great ball. So it looks like it's not going to roll out anyway. It's going to be a tough shot with no side spin ball. I would have had to do some kind of curl had I gone off the fairway. So I was just going for something that, might be able to give me enough run out to get to the hole. Worst case scenario, you'll see that it comes up just a little bit short. But I'm safely in for birdie. That's all I needed. And if the wind was a little bit tougher, higher, for instance, maybe I would have aimed over here on the fairway. But as I mentioned, especially with low curl, low side spin balls, we would have needed to use a significant amount of curl if we would have been aiming in that spot. You can actually see my opponent's doing that. However, he's kind of, out towards the middle of the fairway. Might not be the best shot. Let's see. That's pretty good. That's good enough. If you roll onto the front of that green, there's a chance that you'll put yourself in a very, very almost maxed putt. Another thing, if you get just a little bit too much more towards the right, the same kind of thing can happen as well. So you'll want to protect against that. However, one of the reasons that we're bringing quarterback is because, there's technically 5 or 6 holes, all the Southern Pines, all the Greenwich Point. So that's 6 out of 9 holes where I potentially have an advantage with the driver shootout, especially if I have a QB9. So once it gets up to the point where it has that extra backspin for those Southern Pines holes, because you'll find 2 of them have a shot where you can use 6 or 7 backspin and just hit the ultimate type shot. And it's just a little bit tougher to do until you get it to a 9. But here again, once again, we're kind of getting, kind of the worst of the draw here. This actually makes this hole just a little bit tougher. However, I should, going up against a Guardian, I should be able to beat a Guardian, almost 9 out of 10 times. So I feel very, very comfortable against these clubs. Now, one of the things that you saw me do last time on the shot that we did, I did use the max adjustment. I'm pretty sure it was too much. So we're going to try our best to do just a little bit better on this shot. And all we really kind of have to do is kind of keep it on the green. 7 yards should be relatively easy to beat. The hardest part here is our curl ball. You'll see there's max. We'll be pulling back towards mid just slightly. So I'll need to make sure that I factor that in. Somewhere maybe right in here, 7 rings. So I'm going to try to go 7 rings, land right in here. Of course, a little bit of curl. 3.5 on the top spin in this situation. I usually try to land maybe right around here. And 7 rings, make sure that you don't use any extra power. So you'll see a significant amount of curl here. All I really needed to do is just kind of roll down onto the green, even with the great ball. And you can see that I can just put it very, very close. Keep in mind, you need to be thinking about things like wind effect. So with wind effect, you need to be thinking, if the wind's going to push my ball a little bit more right, I need to use more curl. If the wind's coming in and pushing towards the left, I need to use less curl. So what is that? We're probably at least 35 minutes in, I would imagine. So I'll probably try to take it to the top of the hour. And pretty good. I mean, we're getting a mix of holes. The only thing that we're not seeing, I would have loved to have seen more driver shootouts for you guys, because there's a 6 in 9 probability, which is 2/3, that we're going to get the holes that we want. Now, for this hole, you'll see we did get a tailwind. What I'm going to try to do is make sure that I put a Titan on so I can get up into the tree shadows. It'll be nicer to be just a little bit longer, but you'll see with the precision, I can miss by, a good country mile as well. So you'll see that I'm not even using the Golf Clash Notebook app because, my air is going to be so great with the quarterback that I don't expect, to be, what I'm shooting for there is maybe about 12 rings, and then also some, kind of curl back just to kind of straighten out the wind effect. And you can see that I just kind of get it into the shadows there, give myself a good chance. Now, what you'll see on this second shot here, particularly if you ever point down the hill, you'll see a hill that rolls down. Anytime that you point your rings down that hill, you're going to need to under-adjust intentionally because the ball is going to fly a lot lower. You're going to change the shot's trajectory. So anytime that you end up pulling down this hill, make sure that you're under-pulling your rings intentionally. This is going to be it's a good thing I brought it up because that's exactly what we have here. Now, you'll also see that it's uphill as well. So, and we are going to be kind of down here towards midden club a bit. But you'll also see, we are uphill. You can see it very easily from that take shot view. This is telling me move 9-ish rings. However, since we're moving to lower ground, as I mentioned, I'm not even going to go 9 rings. I need to go under 9 rings because when you move to lower ground, it's going to change the trajectory. I'm only going 8 rings. Keep in mind that you could see that I was going to need a significant amount of curl as well because my ball guide was still very much towards the edge of the green. So you can see that I'm just trying to bend it, play the wind effect. Looks like I was a little bit off. However, it's a pretty handy shot. Not too bad. It's pretty tidy overall. But you can see I only moved about 8 rings. And that's because I moved the target down to lower ground. So I need to make sure, even with the elevation that I'm using, that I don't actually pull to that ring. Because there's one thing the notebook tool can't do, is it can't guess that you're pulling down to lower ground or vice versa, moving up to higher ground. When you move up to higher ground, you get a higher trajectory and you'll see more wind effect. When you move to lower ground, you'll find a lower trajectory and you'll have less wind effect because of that. So you'll need to go less rings. So here we are getting to the shootout once again. So let's take a look at what we draw this time. Hopefully less Milano. About tired of seeing that. Okay, and here we go. So this will have, good backspin advantages here. Not to mention with the curl. So I might not need the best side spin ball in the game. What you'll typically see me do, especially with quarterback's precision, you'll always see me try to go for the driver. It's a little bit easier than doing the sniper shot. Of course, the sniper shot is also very possible that you can perfect this, but it is just going to be a little bit tougher. When you can bring it in a little bit longer with an angle, you'll see that you can usually bend the slope just a little bit easier because you can bring it in at a better angle. So what you'll see, especially with the sniper shot, is a lot of guys may miss this to the left, especially if they don't factor in wind effect. It looked like that was the guy's biggest mistake there, was maybe not factoring that in. So let's take a look. Again, somewhere up in here, you can see we are going to be down towards min club almost exactly. So you'll see that I might go maybe a ring under here. But as I mentioned, it's a little bit easier to play this hill with the quarterback. So you'll see what I'm trying to do here. And then other than this, I'll try to do some curl as well because of wind effect. Since I'm going below min, I'm probably only going to go 7 rings in this case. Since I'm going below min. Great ball. So I'm also under adjusting a bit. And you can see, oh wow, that checked up. Man, I'm barely gonna slip in here. That's only gonna be about 3 yards. You typically get it a little bit closer. It didn't really take too much of the back hill. It looked like really checked up there. Didn't expect it to do that. But in that situation, it did just come up just a little bit short on the back hill, even though the guide kind of looked like it was going through, and it was a tailwind as well. But all in all, not too bad. Even with the great ball, 2 yards, we'll take it. That's one of the main reasons to have QB. It makes your life a lot easier, and you'll find that in most winds, you'll be able to still go with that shot and give yourself a very, very good chance. Okay, back to this hole. Another tailwind that just, makes my life easier. Again, you'll probably see me keep a Titan on, mostly for the second shot. The second shot is a huge contributing factor as to why. Now, I may try to get just a little bit more aggressive since I do have a Sniper 8. If you guys have Sniper 9, Sniper 10, you don't really need a massive drive, especially if you have a QB9. Well, no, you need a QB10 because QB10 gets it 5.5-ish top spin. And you can see that I only have 4 top spin. So I'm kind of limited with what I can do with this thing. However, it's more than enough to get us home no matter what, especially if we use a Titan ball. So that's one of the main reasons that you may want to do that, just to be, better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. We never know what that second wind's going to be. And it looks like I'm going to be able to just max this out with some curl. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. You can see, well, it's going to be more than that. I forgot to hit. You always need to actually click in the box. You can see that it's about 6 rings. And you can see, should be good. Just pay attention that I'm kind of positioning the left edge a little bit. That's because I'm going to be curling this. So anytime I curl, I expect it to land a little bit more right. So once again, that's kind of going to put me kind of in the same exact position that I was in last time. So if we do get a headwind, which it looks like we got straight in the head, we may need to kind of almost go over, maybe even full overpower here. But that's okay. We're going to be prepared for that either way. That's one of the biggest reasons to bring Titan. Okay, it just kind of keeps us safe. We make sure that nothing bad can happen when we prepare. So even if I have to go max overpower, we'll still get there. We'll still get our eagle. And that's all that matters. The hardest thing to do here is play enough wind effect. Most guys may use only 1 bar kind of statically. In fact, here you can see if you don't kind of crank up the top spin, you'll see that it's just not going to go anywhere. You can't statically play spin. So, you can't just fix and say, oh, I'm going to use this spin always on this hole, for example. If you saw last time I played it, I might have used, what did I use? 1-ish top spin. Now you're going to see me use max, and I'm also going to max power as well. So you'll see that I'm going to go all the way up here, maybe with just a slight amount of curl as well. So just trying to keep it out of the tree there. And you can see it still pretty much lands to the same spot, and you probably have, you can see, just about the same amount of rollout. Now keep in mind, I really couldn't get aggressive and get that over towards the hole. I would have needed to curl it a lot more. It's just a little bit too dangerous. So it's more about just playing the safe shot, making sure that we get to the hole. With the Nirvana 5, this is going to be a hard chip in, even if, now he did draw an easy win, so it is somewhat makeable. However, you're really limited with the ball guide that they give you on this, so it does make it a little bit tougher. I could see perfect ball even missing. However, this is very, very straight wind. I would expect if he gets it, he probably will make it. But as I mentioned, with the limited ball guide, it does make this pitch just that much tougher because you can't really see the way that it's rolling through. Even with the wedge, they don't really show you the bounces very good down that hill. So you can see that, just able to pick up a win here just by, playing our game. And, my opponent there just got a little bit unlucky. But if you can just, kind of stick to fundamentals and, just be very, very careful, you'll see that, more often than not, you'll put yourself in a position to win. Let's take a look. What division am I in? Okay. So that should, get me a good start. I should be able to maybe promote up this week as well. About 15 more minutes, I guess. We'll do at least 2 more holes. If we don't get to a shootout, maybe I'll do 3 more holes. Again, this is going to be another great hole for quarterback. It would be ideal if we had a QB9, QB10. However, still a good hole for us to be able to use QB8 as well. What you'll see is I pretty much use full topspin. You'll also see that I try to get this ball guide very, very aggressive. It's because into a headwind, it's going to kind of condense down. So you'll see that I'm kind of playing the edge here a little bit. And I'm also going to kind of overpull my rings, make sure that I'm going at least 5 to 6 rings here. Maybe just a little bit of curl, just to make sure, hopefully, that I kind of clip that rough. Now, I do need to be semi-aggressive here because I don't want it to stay in the rough. So, and it looks like it does. So that's one of the disadvantages because ideally you want about 5.5 topspin. However, that was a bad rollout too. It can actually roll through into the green even with that quarterback 8. Keep in mind, if you had a QB10 there, which I'm sure most of you guys watching the stream, you still want to use the full topspin. With 5.5, I would have always rolled through to the fairway with that line. So I did have to get fairly aggressive. I was trying to make that set, and as I mentioned, it was going to compress down, and I'm trying to make sure that that second bounce hopefully lands towards that edge and it just trickles out into the fairway. If I get it out into the fairway, there's almost a 90% chance, at least, that I'm going to make the pitch. I still, if I hit perfect ball from the rough, there's still a good chance that I'm going to make it. And, there's also a chance that looks like my opponent missed the rough there. Oh, but it's checking up. He might not roll into the rough. Oh, it just rolled in. So again, I still may make it to a shootout because that just clipped the rough as well. Or, alternatively, this is also going to come down to perfect timing. You'll see I really don't have to play much here. I'm just going to kind of play the edge of the cup. And, that should be more than enough. If I hit perfect ball, we got our eagle. So right into the center of the cup there. And, put ourselves in a position to maybe even win the hole now because it puts pressure on my opponent here to hit perfect ball. There's potential that you can slide this in with a great ball, but, not always. So you do got to just be a little bit cautious. And one of the things you never want to do is kind of overpower it like that. However, when you hit perfect ball, it's probably going to be okay with a straight wind, but you don't typically want to go overpower like my opponent just did there. Once again, back to the Milano. So really killing this course, unfortunately. I really wish we would have got some of the Greenwich points. All 3 of them, I can just throw daggers. And it's just like easy wins. I mean, it's like gimmies. It's like just giving my, I have to mess up to lose to an extra mile on all 3 of them. And I really would have liked to have been able to put some extra views together. You'll see, I can really just throw kind of laser darts with the quarterback because it has so much ball guide, especially once it gets up to a 10. I mean, you guys can just kill with that club. Now, one of the things that we'll be doing here is pulling down very, very close to min. So you'll see that I'll probably use the min adjustment. Oh, wow. He adjusted a lot of rings there. So sometimes if my opponent makes a mistake like that, I won't even go for the island. However, you know, I might just kind of under adjust rings intentionally just to be kind of on the safe side. So 9.7 down towards min. You know, it's basically saying 9.6 rings. However, keep in mind we're moving to lower ground. Anytime you're moving to lower ground, you want to underpull your rings. So maybe 8.5 here. It's basically 1 ring less because we've moved to lower ground. And you'll see it was pretty spot on with where it landed towards the center of the island. Had I pulled down the 9 rings, it would have landed short, but if I set up on the front, it would have actually, potentially been in there tight. I could have got more aggressive on the island. However, I don't want to give up an easy win to my opponent, especially with them shooting first. I'll just be a little bit more cautious. And there you can see I actually unlocked toward 10. Things have been rolling along pretty well here. Just got over 2,500 trophies. That seems to be the threshold. Where are we at? We did get a shootout there. So let's take a look here. Again, Milano hole 3, par 5. You can see that the wind's a little bit better for us. Keep in mind, last time I did play the Titan, and the biggest reason was because, for the second shot. So with that in mind, I'm going to try to use kind of the same strategy here. I might just get a little bit more aggressive with my line. You can see that I'm about 4 rings from the rough here. Also, pay attention to what my ball guide's doing. So I might use just a little bit of curl, and I'll probably just play, very close to 1 per ring. So about 8 rings over, just a tiny bit of curl. You can see most of the overpower here. And, just try to stay away from the rough at all costs. And with the quarterback accuracy, it makes it a lot easier to kind of play safely. And what I typically try to do is I try to not challenge that neck intentionally. So I just keep it short of the neck at all times. And what that does is it keeps it from rolling in the rough here or keep it from rolling in the rough here. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of top out as much power as I want to just kind of stop right around here, right before it goes into that very, very narrow area. And this might be case in point. It's much better to miss left or right than it is to miss left here. Like that's a big mistake here for this hole, especially with that headwind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to play through the guide a little bit. We're just going to, I'm not going to use the tool here. Well, let's just do it. 11.5, somewhere in here. You'll see that it's somewhere towards 14 rings. However, this is uphill. If you've ever seen this view, it's probably about 10% uphill, which means I probably want to go somewhere a little bit more than 13 rings. You can see that's going to require some overpower, so that's kind of what you'll see that I'm factoring in for right now. Other than that, you're just going to need to play kind of some ball guide offset. Just try to get the ball going back towards the hole. As you can see that the ball still winds up very right. Another contributing factor is how jacked up that fairway is. I talked about it last time. Very, very tough to hold this hole to begin with because the fairway is so all over the place. It really takes a lucky bounce. Some of the most skilled players in the world can't get that ball rolling towards the hole all the time. I struggle with it. Anytime I go over towards the right, though, if I can tee off and drive it towards the right, if we get a tailwind pointing at the hole, I'll go toward the right, and the fairway's much cleaner. Even if I'm in the rough, I find it easier to hold out from the rough going right than I do from over there in the fairway. That's how tough that left fairway is. Now, we have no way of knowing if my opponent is going to hold this out. Very well could. So we may still see a shootout. Otherwise, I'll probably play one more for you guys. I mentioned, if for whatever reason, we save some time, 2-3 minutes, that I'd go in and do an extra hole for you guys. But you can see with, QB in your bag, you really give yourself a good chance. You can see, I haven't had to play a rough shot. Oh, no, I did have that one rough shot. It was kind of a bad luck. I just had to hit that rough shot. But I can keep myself out of the bunkers. I can keep myself out of the rough, stuff like that. It makes it a little bit easier. So, man, I'll be one away from my pin chest as well. I guess that's fine. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Let's just try to get one more game in here. Slip one more. Another par 5, hole 5 this time. So this is a very, very challenging hole. We can still do it with quarterback though. What I'll typically use is either a Katana or Titan. Now it is going to be better to have a Titan, especially for the shootouts. And this will be a very, very easy hole with quarterback, especially when we get a win like this. All we need to really do is just make sure that we hit it in the fairway. That's pretty much the only goal. So don't do anything too aggressive. Since QB has so much curl, it's actually a much easier drive than extra mile is. Now, this is definitely a route that you can take, is you can try to get it to the other side and put it into this bunker. There's probably about a 70% chance you can still get that to the green. So it doesn't matter technically if you do want to go that way. Totally fine. Now, what I'm going to do is just kind of back off the topspin a bit. But you can see this isn't going to really require any power whatsoever. More so than anything, maybe just a little bit of curl. I go about 9 rings there, a little bit of curl. Again, no power. I just want to, more than anything, put it safely in the fairway, as opposed to getting too aggressive here. So you'll see that I'll just try to stop it short of trouble there. And we're just going to take the long way to the hole and just go around towards the left-hand side and feed it down towards the green. Oh, wow. What? So if you're going to bring Malibu, you should have never, ever went for that drive. I would have thought for sure the only way he'd try that is if he had Spitfire, because there was almost a 90. It's like there's no way you're going to get over that. That's a miracle shot for you to drive an extra mile over into the fairway there. Now, one of the things you could still do is you could hook it around these trees. Looks like my opponent's going to do something just a little bit more safe. It's going to make this a lot tougher, because if he doesn't keep this in the fairway, even if he did keep it in the fairway, he's very, very close to the tree line there. So let's take a look. What I'll typically do is go this way. You can see max power looks like it's going to be in the bunker. Again, not going to use the notebook tool. I'm just going to try to land somewhere, about 9-10 rings over, somewhere right in here with full curl. And I'll typically use about 1 topspin. And, because of what you could see is kind of the reason that I'm going to kind of go half power. So you could see that I was going to, potentially launch it too far. So all I'm trying to do here is essentially hit a perfect ball, just kind of bend it around, keep it short of the bunker, and just get it into the green somewhere. So you can see even that was almost too much power, because you could see I was actually relatively close to the bunker. I was within 2-3 yards of it. It was close. So again, sometimes slow and steady just wins the race. So you can see, even with quarterback, we just put ourselves in play, give ourselves a very, very good chance. And, we're able to pick up, just another win here. So that makes 2 in an hour by just taking care of business and executing the shots. So if anything there is to learn from there is one of those 2 tricky par 5s, the Greenwich Point ones, you just want to kind of stick to your game, make sure you don't make mistakes, keep the ball in play, and you give yourself a great chance. So just to kind of summarize here, make sure you guys are still thinking about things like wind effect. Make sure you guys are, kind of putting those tightened priority just for, potentially the shootout, but also be thinking about your second shots. You want to make sure that you don't put yourself out of range because you get a nasty headwind. Okay, and another thing, be thinking about that wind effect. Let's look at that par 5 that we played twice. I played it once with about 1 topspin, another with 4.5. You need to be thinking about those differences in wind effect. They're going to be substantial. But the more that you can kind of hone in on that and, hone in and get a little bit more refined with your skills, the better you're ultimately going to do in Tour 9 and easily be able to get through it and find yourself in Tour 10 and then hopefully, move into Tour 11. So good luck, guys. Let me know how it goes. Feel free to comment if you need a little bit more clarity on anything. But I think, pretty straightforward. Just use these guides to kind of just help you hone in on what it is you need to do. It's unfortunate I couldn't get to a couple more driver shootouts for you guys, but do check out my shootout folders. You'll see shootouts for Milano, Greenwich Point, and Southern Pines. Second tee is going to be what you're looking for. Second tee shootouts. They're in playlists on my channel. So if you go to the playlist tab, every course is listed. You'll just search for the ones that say second tee shootouts for those courses. Good luck, guys. Take care. See you on the next one.